there in Reddit land and YouTube space. And are we streaming live from LinkedIn as well?
We are streaming live from LinkedIn. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Kyle, and this is Jake.
My name is Jake with Amplify, and we are here today to discuss business, entrepreneurship, startups, motivation, and fintech. And we appreciate your viewership and any questions that you may have along the way. Feel free to hit us up. And Kyle, how was your week? What's been going on?
Well, it's been really good. Spent some time in the forest to clear my brain, and then once I got back to work, I spent most of the day over at the Fort Hood Army Base teaching boots to business to retiring Army people yesterday, and it kind of inspired me to do a topic about veterans in business today. What do you think?
I think that's pretty awesome. I think that's awesome that you are able to help out those guys. Probably a really interesting crowd. I used to live in San Diego, and there was a lot of military around, so you'd meet a lot of people that were involved in the space.
Yeah, Fort Hood is the largest Army base in America, and we do things on every couple of months. It's called Boots to Business, and so there are guys that are transitioning out, guys and gals transitioning out of the military, and they're thinking about what to do next. Now, naturally, there's three paths. You can either go get a job, you can retire because some people are on that path, or you can start a business. So I help people figure out how to make that transition from the military into business, often in a franchise model. But we talk about all different types of ways, and kind of top of mind today. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today was what's on your mind? What's been going on with you?
Well, we are preparing the company to try to raise money. We've got some of our early users, and we're in the equipment finance space. We're getting some applications through. We've got some approvals, and we're looking, we kind of have a 3 or 4 week arc that we're trying to polish up our pitch and get a few users and get some testimonials from them and get out in front of investors. So it is an exciting time for us and for Amplify. And I'm very interested to meet other people in the space or just in business in general that are looking for ways to solve problems or do better or scale bigger. And I love to talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I understand. I imagine that getting the first few customers is really some of the biggest lift. How did you acquire those first few users?
I've been in equipment finance for 15 years, and so I have some existing connections. I also just, I do a lot of prospecting on LinkedIn. I really like LinkedIn as a space for prospecting. It's good, particularly because I like to reach out to vendors who sell equipment, as well as people who are buyers who are looking to buy equipment. So LinkedIn is a good space for that. And yeah, so we connected with some people there, and I think we built something that's pretty cool and helpful. So it's kind of a weird feeling when you're trying to sell people, and they're actually like, "Hey, this is great," and you're like, "Oh, that's awesome."
So you had a Rolodex, right? And how did you convince people to make that switching costs in B2B are traditionally pretty high? How did you convince people to make that switch from the thing that they were using?
Well, we're actually offering a tool that's not really available in the space, or particularly not for SME and small businesses. Some of the big banks that have big customers have, platforms and portfolios for them that they can access. But in our space in small business, there's not really something like this around, and we're offering it for free. We get some benefit and profit when they introduce customers that buy equipment finance. Buy a product with using equipment finance. And so it's been kind of a nice proposition to offer this as a tool to people that helps give them, more opportunity to generate revenue. But very
All
good
right.
question. Very good
So
question.
you're looking for testimonials. What kind of feedback do you get?
So we're trying to build that now. We do need a little bit more of a track record. I mean, I have some people that like the tool from their impression and from the demos, but we want to get people that, close a few more deals on it and get their testimonials. And hopefully, ideally, what we'd love them to say is like, hey, this was easy to use, made my life easier, saved me time, and helped me close business. I mean, we're really looking for that kind of trifecta in helping small businesses.
Very
So
good. Sounds like a compelling problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to have worked on it for so long and to have built something and to really be solving a problem for people out there. And just to take a quick step back, the problem we're trying to solve is that currently, people trying to offer equipment finance, they have to make a lot of phone calls, they have to send a lot of emails. There's not a central place that they can use for engaging with customers with quotes and following up with customers. And once they get approved, tracking down what do they need and why and where. And we're just trying to consolidate all that into one place. So it's been an exciting mission.
I bet it is. Now, what's the feedback you're getting when you're raising money? Do people want to see revenue, or what's the what's the feedback you've gotten so far?
That's a really good question, Kyle, and it's kind of a tough one. There's a lot of people there's a lot of money out there right at the moment in the venture capital or VC space. They kind of don't want to get involved until you have quite a lot of revenues, and they typically want to invest a lot of money as well. They want to invest kind of millions of dollars into something, and we're kind of in this early stage angel investor space who are willing to take more risk on a pre-revenue company. We are actually close to possibly taking some revenues, and I want to get at least some revenues coming in before we kind of move a little bit more into this full investment space in the next couple of weeks. But that's the risk they take, right? If you're an angel investor and you're taking a lot of risk, you're taking on the fact that you may uncover some opportunity that's going to moon or turn into a unicorn by getting in early and getting a piece of that company. And so it's really laying out those metrics, like I guess the key things they're looking for is what is that problem you found? Like, have you found a genuine problem or you think you found a problem? How are you going to solve that problem? And who are you? Like, who's the team and how much are you looking for?
Okay. And you're going after venture capital, it sounds like. How does that distinguish from going after angel funding, more of like a seed round type of thing?
Yeah, so the venture capital is a little bit bigger than our space. We're kind of in this angel space. Angels would tend to invest. There are some angels out there that do kind of micro investments that could be 10, 20, 30, 40,000. We're in a space kind of 100 to 500,000. There's a lot of investment going into fintech at the moment, so you could move up to an angel fintech space that goes up to 1 million. Really, when you get up to 1 million and above is when you get to that kind of venture capital space.
Okay. Sounds cool. Well, I know that's a really interesting journey, and um, it sounds like you're solving a really good, compelling problem. And what's the one piece of advice you would give people that are going through this same journey that you've been traveling down? What can you help people in terms of raising money?
That's such a great question. There are startup businesses are, and I'm sure you found this as well and can expound on this in the franchise space, but startup businesses are just like snowflakes, right? Every founder is different, every business is a bit different, but I think the thing that I am working on is keeping up engagement. You've really got to get out there in front of a lot of investors. You've got to pitch a lot to get feedback so you can continually hone your message, um, and continue to grow, and that is not always easy. It's definitely not always easy, but there's some amazing people out there that have kind of made it, and they're looking to find good people to try to help out and to give their guidance to. And finding those people is really your mission. Find someone who is a good person that really wants to help and believes in you. And that's not an easy thing to do, but it is rewarding when you can pull it off.
Just being out there, refining your pitch sounds like a full-time job.
I feel like I have three full time jobs. I have to one full time job just trying to manage the business and the tech platform and creating contracts that I've never created before, and dealing with partners. I have another full time job which should be doing business development and sales, and I unfortunately don't find enough time for that. I try to, and then you have a full time job actually trying to do that thing of putting a deck together and raising money. And I am not great at decks. I know my mission, I know my message, I know the problem I'm trying to solve. But when you try to boil all that down into 13 slides of a slide deck, it's incredibly hard to get everything across in an exciting way and looking right. It is such a mission. It's very difficult. And so whenever I hear of someone who like whipped out a deck in like a couple of weeks and raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, it does happen. But it's a very hard thing to do. Very hard thing to do.
Yeah, it's that resonant message, right? It's got to really. You mentioned 13 slides. Is that a formula?
Yeah, there's a fairly strict format across the industry, and I think one of the most well known slide decks is the Sequoia deck that's out
Mhm.
on the internet that kind of says, present your problem, solution, team, traction, your exit, your ask. There's kind of a somewhat traditional arc of slides, but everyone's got their own format. And every incubator and accelerator will kind of have their own slight twist on that, but you are
Mm.
supposed to really limit it, and trying to stay down to that amount of slides is a massive challenge.
So, if there's such a formula, how do you differentiate your pitch?
That is some of the magic that is difficult, but I think you do that by having a great product and by believing in yourself and by believing in your mission. But sometimes even if you have a great product, trying to convey that through a slide that people may look at very quickly. Some people, when you send these things out, spend less than a minute flipping through things. It's literally it's literally like they're blinking. They're blinking at your slide deck. Um,
Yeah.
so being compelling that's the real challenge. And I think I'm good at decks, but I don't think I'm like this pro sport level good at decks. And sometimes that's what you need. Like a lot of these angels are seeing thousands. Like at the moment, things are very intense in investment in the startup space, and these guys are looking at 1,000 decks a month. So having a message that resonates is it's kind of the existential question.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's got to be just so much that you're competing with, but I know there's a lot of money sloshing around there too.
They say
Where do
there's a
you?
lot of money out there, and there seems to be concerns. I think the general consensus I'm getting from people I'm speaking to this week, Kyle, is that a lot of people are noticing the economy's been like this for a while. People are thinking that it's going to go down at some point. We just don't know when. Um, but there's a lot of money being raised now, so this is a good time. So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens. And so, what was the vibe with the guys out at the base you went to? How are they feeling in general? Is there kind of a general morale of the guys that you're feeling at the moment?
Well, the folks that are in transition are really kind of looking forward to life outside of the military, and it presents kind of an issue because if you think about it, the military is your classic sort of authoritarian socialist structure, right? You know, it's kind of a big womb, and people have been in it for a long time. They don't have to think about making money; they're just doing their job. So now they're, presented with this opportunity to go out and make money on their own. And the bridge that I'm trying to help them connect with mentally is taking the skills, the discipline, the ability to lead, the ability to be led and be coached, and the ability to follow a system and translate that into a business that they can own. And so that's kind of a big leap for somebody that's been in the military for a while. A lot of the skills that they learn, it doesn't have a lot of usefulness in the private sector. You know, I mean,
Now
if
you
you're a,
you've been working with these guys for many years, right?
yeah, I've been working with the military for about 7 years. I teach classes there regularly.
And do you are things kind of the same for the guys getting out now than it was 7 years ago? Have things changed? What they talk about, what they look forward to?
Yeah, they are. I think that the human condition is quite enduring, and there's ups and downs economically, but the fundamentals are the same. The folks coming out are trying to do the same thing, which is how can they take what they've got, identify general transferable skills, and then go out and start a business. Now, the cool thing is that most of the folks that I work with that are actually opting into this pathway for their next career after the military are usually officers that have had some form of command and are used to, giving orders to lots of people. They are not living paycheck to paycheck, and they may have saved up some money over the years, and they're ready to invest. Um, The cool thing also in that situation is that they've got transferable skills. They've got management skills. They might have been dealing with logistics, dealing with finance, dealing with people. Um, and those are valuable in the private sector. So, that's the advice that I give them is take your general transferable skills. And then when I come in and help them, what we do is I often recommend franchises to these folks because it has the structure, it has that they're used to. Like they don't have to develop a business plan, they don't have to go and raise money.
Right. So it has I don't know if similar is the right word, but there's a regimentation, and there's kind of a path for them to follow, as there was in the military. And I think some
Yes, there are barriers
a little
to
right.
risk.
They've saved up a little money as they've been in the military.
That often when I'm dealing with officers, they have some discretionary income. Yeah,
They
so
got a little income, so they're coming out. They've got some money to spend to invest in a business, and the franchise could. It sounds like it could really make a lot of sense for some of these guys. Now, are these guys are they all at the same level, or do you speak to the guys of the military that are all different levels?
I'm dealing with people at all different levels. From corporals all the way to generals, really. But I found that the people that generally make the move are going to be higher level officers. And it's mainly because they have leadership experience. They have, they're often college educated. They've often got a spouse that's also making money. So they've got a way to create this runway to be able to start a business without the expectation of making income immediately at it for the first 6 or 12 months. And that helps a lot. I think what also helps the military in particular is that franchises, they participate in a program called VetFran. And what
Yep.
they do is they offer discounts to veterans specifically. And they like veterans to be in franchises because you learn how to lead, you learn how to be coachable, you learn how to work within a system, and you've got demonstrated self-discipline. Um, and that is a great success formula for business ownership in the franchise model. So I've seen some franchise concepts that will offer anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000 discounts on the investment to get into that business if you're an honorably
Because
discharged
there's
veteran.
because they're a veteran. That's great.
Yeah,
I hadn't
yeah,
considered that. That's a really nice offering by the franchisees to help that crowd of people.
yeah. It's a program that's helping to veterans transition, and the result of it is that probably 1 out of every 8 franchise owners is a veteran because of
And,
the incentives
and
there.
so when you discuss the franchises with them, then are they mostly interested in the ones that have the discount because it's more attractive, or they consider a range because maybe their skills or interests lie somewhere outside of that discount
Yeah,
channel?
they do consider a range, and a lot of people come. I guess this leads me into the second topic I wanted to talk today, which is the passion trap. A lot of people come with a passion for something, and they want to run a business at it. And
I
I
have a
know that.
I have an anecdote about that. Can I tell you a story about my cousin to lead
Yes,
into your
please.
space? So my cousin loves to fish, and he
Hmm.
thought that the greatest idea in the world would be to turn his passion into his career. And so he moved down to Costa Rica with his family and got a boat and wanted to fish, for work. And it became, from a passion and a pastime, it became a job very quickly, and something that he had to really grind on to, get the profits he needed to keep his family going. Was that kind of the direction you were going with that, or tell us? I'm interested to hear your side of
Yeah,
the passion trap and what you see.
yeah, kind of. And this is something I talked about with the veterans yesterday. Is beware of what you're really passionate about. And I'll give you an example. One of my most cringeworthy statements that I hear from clients is, "Hey, I'd love to get into that business because I love the way the food tastes."
Yeah.
Or I see lines out the door all the time. It must be an awesome business, right? And it's really the terrible reasons to be in a business. Like if you really love the food, go buy the food. It's much less of an investment than buying the business. But if you came and you told me that your passion was being able to manage perishable inventory and large numbers of low skill, high turnover employees, that's correctly placed passion. But even beyond that, beyond the mechanics of the business, I think it's really healthy to separate the function of the business that you run from the function of the owner itself, right? In other words, a business does something, it's an asset. And in some ways, it's pretty healthy to consider it sort of dispassionately as a means to get you to the goal that you want to be at. Get back to your why. Why are you in business? Are you in business to work 90 hours a week? Is that your passion? Or are you shooting for something else? Do you want to be the technician in the business? Do you want to make that food, or do you want to, operate that machinery? Or are you in it for something different? Do you want to be with your family instead? Do you want to have control over your life? Do you want to build wealth? Do you want to change the world in some way? Now, those I think, are good ways to, dial into a passion for the why. But gosh, I listened to your cousin. I've had a friend who did that too, to turn a hobby into a business, and there's no better way to ruin a hobby than to turn it into a business.
I have
The
heard
joy
about the
of it.
rare few people who've been successful at that, and I know some people that aren't direct friends, but like friends of friends who, there's a guy who has a hunting business, and takes people up out into the wilderness and takes them hunting. He makes a really nice living off of that and some local fishing trips. So I think there is success out there in turning your passion into a business, but I think the positive stories are farther and fewer between for many of the reasons you just mentioned. Um,
Yeah, it can be a trap. But I think a good litmus test is also, if it's not something that you do technically, like being an angler is completely different than running a fishing charter business, right?
yeah,
Or being good at making pies is way different than running a pie making business. Um,
I always say that
but
it doesn't matter what business you're in. You have to be good at counting the tomatoes. You have to be good at counting the cups. Um,
yes,
it doesn't matter.
yes,
It doesn't matter if you're a doctor or a fishing business or a restaurant business. You have to kind of mind the numbers in the business and what's going out, and what's going in, and what's going
yeah,
to.
yeah.
Um,
Business is a little bit of math and a lot of people, right? And in managing an operation. So if that is your passion, you're in the right place. But also, I think, I was meeting with a client this morning, and we were discussing. I was building a portfolio of businesses for her to start researching, and I presented one, and it was a physical therapy business. Now, on that surface, that's a really great business. There's constant demand. It's a $45 billion industry growing at 7% a year.
and do you have
Just
a
a really brilliant business. But she nixed it for the right reasons. And she
yeah?
nixed it because she said, I cannot get passionate about the value proposition. And if the owner's role in that business is to be the networker, to be the referral generator, and you cannot get behind the passion of when you're articulating the value proposition, you're not going to have fun. Ultimately, I think any business in which you're good at what the owner should be doing and you like what the owner should be doing, you can get up every day and, without being told, and go do it, you'll be successful at it. And that's a pretty good litmus test.
Well, I think you also touched on a really interesting point about sales, right? I mean, they say you can't sell anything that you don't believe in, and so she made a really smart decision. Even if all the numbers were there, if she didn't believe in the business or she didn't believe in selling it, it was going to be a massive challenge to her. And so, do
Yeah.
you have a franchise actually in that space? Is there a franchise on that kind of
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah?
That's a really great industry. It's naturally driven demand. I mean, people are going to get hurt, and they want to rehabilitate and get moving again. So that's never going to end. It's only going to get more. But I want to finish that point with sort of a contrast, right? I also We ended up looking at a residential cleaning business. Now, there's very few people that wake up in the morning and say, "Gee, I'd love to clean other people's homes." However, this was something in which the owner's role in that had nothing to do with articulating a value proposition. You don't go around and pitch residential cleaning business as a model, as an owner of such a business. It's all done through marketing. So you've operationalized the sales component of that business, and the passion for that kind of business actually should be empowering your employees, who are generally uneducated, to be able to help them to envision a career path to management. And so that was something that she could get passionate about. And so it's I guess the moral of the story here is it's really hard to judge a book by its cover. That a residential cleaning business, for example, is not, you're not be seeing things spick and span necessarily, but empowering people. Um, and she did opt into looking at that business because of that empowerment component. That was something that she could get passionate about.
Hey,
And
Kyle.
the cleaning houses is just a vehicle. It's not the end. It's just the means.
Yeah, well, you get into an interesting discussion there that we maybe should circle back to. Is that it's almost on a different side of the rainbow from that passion trap that you were talking about. That if you are getting into a business for money, then you should get into something that makes sense and is going to make money and give you time to spend with your family, and isn't going to be something that you like more, but actually takes more of your time and makes you less profit. But I did want to say we did have a question, so I wanted to make a moment for that. We have a question from Dojo Disco, which I feel like I recognize that name maybe from a question from last week. And Disco is asking, what do you think are the best ways to secure investment to a business? And when I read that question, the first thing that comes to my mind is what kind of business, because a business could be anything, big or small, left, right, up or down. Um, and so I'll answer the question in two ways. One, because I'm getting a lot of experience in that as a startup. And so going to find investors and investment and offering equity or offering a convertible note with security for your business is one way. But for small businesses, as someone who works in the finance space, we offer equipment finance. So if you need equipment for your business and you need money for that, that's a very fast way to get money in your business without actually having to get investment from people. And SBA loans are very common. If you have decent credit and a little bit of business history and some customers, you can put together a package for an SBA loan, and it is a great opportunity for most business owners that have decent credit. It's not going to help people with tougher credit. That is one avenue. And Kyle, you've been helping people start businesses for many, many years. Are there
Yep.
some resources for people kind of in this franchise space?
Yeah. One of the reasons why I'm in the franchise space is because it's exceedingly easy to get capital for a business. This is the one place where you can have a business that has no revenue and you can still get an SBA loan for it because you're working off the reputation and the success path of the franchisor partner that you're working with. So if that franchise is on the SBA registry and you have a 700 or better credit score, you can get an SBA loan for up to 2/3 of the total capital that's needed. However, the 1/3 that you need to put in is still a significant amount of money with commas and zeros. And most people that I work with over the past 12 years have been bootstrapping. And the way they do that is either pulling out equity from like a second home that they might have. I've seen some people actually sell a house, pull some money out, buy another house, and use the excess cash. But probably a slight majority of all the people that I've ever worked with are doing what's called a 401k rollover, or a rollover as a business startup. You can actually use retirement funds as an active investment by creating a 401k account in your own business, your own corporation. And instead of having a fund manager offer you mutual funds to invest in the public markets, your fund manager offers the stock of your own company. So your day-to-day activities have a direct impact on the value of your retirement that you've invested in. It's a way to invest in yourself. So that can be a pretty significant way to raise money.
That is a great story, Kyle, and I really, really appreciate your passion. I'm not in the market for a franchise, but sometimes when I talk to you, I start to think about it. I start to consider your value proposition. Hey, this sounds like a pretty good deal. So, without going too specific, because I know there's a ton of different kinds of franchises out there, but if you had to lay out, if someone was approved for an SBA loan, and they were looking for kind of an average franchise, how much extra additional capital would they have to kind of come into it with? Or perhaps they are borrowing from a house or some other space. But what do they need to kind of top up that gap at that point in some cases?
Thumbnail, I'd say 50 grand. A lot of people do that with a 401k rollover or a home equity line of credit or divesting from stocks. There's always an opportunity cost to doing that. But that's what people do. You're investing in a business that has an opportunity to have returns far in excess of what you're currently investing now. But it's about 50 grand, I think, minimum for a good service business. about 100 grand minimum for like an inline retail type of business. And then you can get an SBA loan for the rest if you have a 700 or better credit score. However, the asterisk there is that once you've put in the money that you need to put into the business and get the loan, you still need what's called post cash liquidity, which is enough dry powder to make sure that you can make it through some, dips and troughs um, as you grow the business.
How long does it take for some of these franchises to execute? You come up with the money, you want to get started. It must take some time to kind of implement it and get some revenues coming in.
Yeah, it revenues can come pretty fast, but really the important stage is the point at which revenues cover expenses. And every business is different, but if I thumbnail it, 6 to 12 months. And so what that means is you should not expect to earn any income out of that business for the first 6 to 12 months. So in addition to the business investment that you make, you need to cover your expenses at home some way. So you're probably going to be living off the balance sheet for a little while, or maybe you have a spouse that works that can cover expenses.
Sounds good to me. Um, Kyle, we are getting up a little bit over the half hour mark. What else as we go down? Anything you want to talk about before we maybe wrap up?
Well, my hope, really, just kind of wrapping it up, is that it's so hard to talk about all the topics in half an hour, but that's why we have episodic content, right? Always a pleasure working with you, Jake, on topics of business. And I look forward to more people asking questions. And we'll come up with some interesting topics. And we're always open to suggestions too, if people want to put that in the chat.
We are here because we love business and we like to talk about business. And Dojo Disco also says thanks for your advice last week on the 4-day work weeks. He really appreciates that, and that's inspiring him or her. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it as always, Kyle. Really appreciate your time, and looking forward
Likewise.
to finding another topic and discussing it next week.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you, everyone. Any upvotes are appreciated. We are trying to get our podcast off the ground. We appreciate your time and all your questions, and hope you have a great week.
All right. Sounds good. We'll see you next week. See you, everyone, next week.
And we are off the air.